Please welcome Gail Rudolph.
Good morning, everybody. How are we today? I am so excited to be here. I cannot tell you how excited I am to be here. I was here a couple years ago and just love the entire day and the information we get. So I want to thank you for joining us. We're going to talk about something really, really controversial: power. We have a world right now that's talking about power every time we turn around. But when we talk about power, we're not talking about power like the world talks about power. You see, power is not things like this. It's not your position. It's not aggression. It's not force. It's not coercion. It is actually, and you will get all of this information later.
Gail, I'll stop you real quick. I'm not sure your mic is on.
Oh, that might help, wouldn't it?
Making sure.
Okay, let's see if we can get it turned on.
Is it green?
It is green now. Can you hear me? Oh. Did you hear me before?
You could hear.
You could hear. Okay, great.
So I wanted you to get that full.
But let's go back, because I want to talk about what power is not. You know, we have a lot in our minds that think that power is all about what position you hold. It's all about what you can do and how many people you can control. But power, the power that we're talking about, being an empowered person, it's not about control. It's not about coercing somebody else into doing something. It is completely different that. Power is controlled. It's purposeful. It's safe. How many of us have ever been in a situation where we didn't feel safe? It's positive. It creates win-win outcomes for everybody that's involved. You see, we're going to look at power a little differently today, because in my book I talk about power and powering up, about making every situation a win-win. You see, we look at power and the definition of power as the capacity or the ability to influence other people or a course of events. That's power. See, what we don't understand about power is that each and every one of us have power. We have power inside of us. We've never thought about it. We've never thought about how to use our power, how to be empowered, and I'm hoping today you'll be able to walk out of here with some power tools to be empowered in any and every situation that you're in. But ladies, I've been there. I've been pushed down in my job. I've had conversations that I didn't know how to handle, that I actually gave my power away. And I became really, really pushy. And unfortunately, I didn't understand it at the time, why I was being pushy. So, if we think about that, we have to understand how our brain works, and we have to understand how everybody else's brain works. You see, there's two ways that our brain functions. Before I get really detailed, let's just try a little experiment. Anne went to the bank. Okay? Anne went to the bank. Picture that in your mind. How many of you in this room pictured a bank? Raise your hands. Okay. Was there anybody in the room that pictured a riverbank? Why did we all picture a bank? Because we're more familiar with this type of bank and going to it on a regular basis than we are this type of bank. Our brain actually works, and we jump. We work very quickly. Let's try another one. Finish this for me. What is this? Louder. Come on. Soap. Right. Oops. The A's off. Wash soap. What about this one? Soup. Eat soup. We're talking about just the difference of one letter. One letter. But you see what happens is wash and eat did something in our brains. It caused our brains to jump to conclusions. See, we naturally do this. We naturally do this in our fast brain. And until we understand that we do this and that other people do this and that they're going to go to what's most common, just like the bank, we don't understand what's happening with us and the people we're interacting with. So I have a video. See, our brain works in two ways. I like to call it, it's called many different things, conscious, subconscious. I like to call it fast thinking and slow thinking. So let's watch a little video to learn a little bit about our brain and how fast thinking, slow thinking works.
Your brain processes information in two very distinct ways. We have slow thinking and fast thinking. Fast thinking processes most of what we experience every day. When you see this image, your fast thinking immediately determines that this person is angry. Your brain knows this by the person's facial expression and their body language. This is fast thinking at work. It takes no real mental effort. It happens instantaneously and without you even being aware of it. Now, let's look at slow thinking. Most of us instantly know that 2 times 2 is 4. But does the answer come as quickly and as easily for this equation? It sees the numbers. It knows it is a multiplication problem, but since it cannot instantly arrive at the answer, your slow thinking takes over to figure out the answer. If you do attempt to solve the problem, the mental exertion affects your physiology. Your heart rate will increase, your muscles will tense slightly, and your pupils will dilate. This is slow thinking. It requires focused concentration. These two ways of processing information direct how we perceive and react to experiences, situations, and people. Let's look at a few more examples. When you see these lines, your fast thinking tells you that they are different lengths. But are they? When we measure the lines, it turns out they are exactly the same length. But the arrows at the ends create an optical illusion that makes one line look longer than the other. Our fast thinking brain, trying to arrive at the quickest answer, automatically believes what it sees. Here's another example of our fast thinking at work. Look at these circles. Which black circle is biggest? Just like with the lines in the last illusion, these two circles are the same size. Again, our fast thinking jumps to the conclusion that because the black circle on the left has a larger circle around it, that it is larger. Here's another. Once again, our fast thinking quickly assesses this drawing and decides that the two yellow lines are different lengths. Once again, it's wrong. This time, the fast thinking is tricked by the perspective of three-dimensionality in the drawing. The fast thinking decides from the available information, plus what it knows from past experience, to arrive at a decision. The fast thinking sees 3 dimensions, even after you remove the black lines so that you can see the yellow lines are indeed the same. Once the black lines are back, fast thinking will still provide faulty information. The slow thinking brain must step in to compensate for the incorrect data the fast thinking brain is giving it. Let's look at the slow thinking at work. Here is a set of 4 numbers. In this exercise, you will add 1 to each of the 4 digits. So in this case, when you add 1 to 2,593, the answer is 3,604. You'll keep doing this for...
Oh, well, I'm going to stop this because I think we put the long version in instead of the short version, and Charlie will get mad at me if I go over. But did you get the idea, what we're talking about fast thinking, slow thinking? We need our fast brain. We have to have our fast brain. Otherwise, we wouldn't get anything done. Think about it in a different way. When you learned how to drive a car, remember? Most of us were around 15 or 16. We thought about everything we did. We thought about when we went around a curve, how much to turn the wheel, when to let off the gas, when to push on the gas, when we were going too fast, where we might have to brake going into a curve because it was too sharp. Remember those days? Remember how you thought about everything? How many of us now get in the car and we drive home and we don't remember what we saw on the way home? We don't remember putting our foot on the gas. In fact, we get so caught up doing something else that we just drive right past our exit. That's fast thinking. See, what happens is when we learn things, they start out in our slow thinking, but then they quickly move to our fast thinking once we've done it. I talk a lot about biases. I teach a lot about biases. This is how biases are formed. We get data that comes into us, and then it moves to our fast thinking, and then we automatically respond. We automatically have a bias. It is something that is vital to understanding how things happen. It also tells us why we get pushy and not powerful. Because we've learned how to react in some way. You see, fast thinking accounts for about 95% of our behavior. 95%. Our brains, our behaviors hijacked. We don't think about it. We do it automatically. Viktor Frankl, who was a Holocaust survivor and a psychologist, says that in between a stimulus and response, there's a space. That's what we're talking about today. We're talking about slowing down and moving from our fast-thinking brains into our slow-thinking brains so that we can claim our power. Moving from fast thinking, where we're hijacked, into slow thinking, into that space to claim power. So I'm going to talk to you today a little bit about power, because power is both a form of verbal and nonverbal communication. You see, we read what other people are saying to us even when they're not talking. Did you hear me? We're reading what other people are saying even when they're not talking. But let me tell you, they're doing the same to you. They are reading what you're saying to them before you ever open your mouth. It's how you show up. It's how you present yourself. It's how you come into the room. It's the seat you choose in the room. So I say that there are two ways, and two different ways that we harness our power. The first one is powering up. Not powering up like some of us have learned, where we get in people's face. That's not power. We talked about that earlier. Powering up is really just being in the moment, taking up space, right? Making an intentional choice to be there, using that space, showing up. Not wearing heels that clomp down the hallway. Not bringing the bag lady where you bring a million different things. Not excessive note-taking, okay? You're each going to get a book before you leave today. It's going to have how to power up in different situations and how to power down, which leads me to powering down. We think powering down is a bad thing. I am here to tell you that powering down, I believe, is more effective than powering up, because it's about creating a level playing field. If somebody pushes you, you push back. Our fast-thinking brain, our automatic responses actually push back. So if you're in a situation and things are getting heated and the power dynamics are getting off, you want to power down. Because powering down is how you make things happen. Let me make it real for you. I coached a lady by the name of Kelly. Kelly had worked at an organization for 10 years. She was an exceptional employee. She went to her boss and said, I think it's time that I get promoted. I'd like to take on more responsibility. I'd like to be promoted. Her boss, on one occasion, would tell her, you know, Kelly, you need to work a little bit more closely with your team. See, I did a white paper a couple of years ago, and Kelly was living that white paper. The white paper said that in work, women are mostly either considered competent in their job or likable, but very rarely both. So Kelly was in that. One time she'd go to her boss and he'd say, you need to work with your team's not seeing you as being friendly enough. Then the next time she'd show up and ask for the raise, he'd say exactly the opposite, right? Your team loves you, but we need to see more confidence in your work. And he was pushing her back and forth. And Kelly was getting really, really frustrated. So we started working on power and her own interpersonal power. And her boss actually had her go to a meeting with him. This particular meeting was a strategy meeting. Kelly happened to be the only female in the room. So as they were at this restaurant getting ready to sit down, you know, they're talking, introducing, shaking hands. Her boss, not realizing what he was doing, said, Kelly is here to take notes. Okay? There would have been a day when Kelly got really, really upset. She would have gotten really quiet. She would have sat there. She would have stewed in her mind. She would have went home furious, right? And she would have never said a word. However, Kelly had been learning about power and powering up and powering down. So what Kelly did was Kelly spoke up and she said, yes, that is correct. I am here because I am developing the strategy for this meeting. And because of that, I'm going to be maybe asking you to speak up. I may be interrupting you to make sure that I have all your points down so that I can create the absolute best strategy so we can move forward with this project. Kelly didn't have to confront her boss. She didn't have to make him look bad. She didn't have to get upset. She went home that evening with a completely different feeling because she harnessed what was available to her. She used that space between a stimulus of what her boss said and her response to pull herself together and choose to power up and power down in different ways. So what is powering up and powering down? Are there some things that we can actually do? Yes. Powering up, powering down. When you want to power up, first thing you do is take up more space. There's a reason I use big gestures. Okay? Spread out. Many times we come into a room, we put our notebook in front of us, we cross our legs, we cross our arms, and we sit there. And if somebody comes in and sits down next to us, we move our stuff over to give them room, right? Because that's the polite thing to do. But you know what? If you need a voice in that room, you want to make sure and spread your things out. You want to take up space. Like a peacock spreads their feathers, right? Or they can tuck them in. We're talking about different sides of the same coin. Powering up, powering down is the way you use your own power that's available to you each and every moment of each and every day. All you have to do is slow down your thinking. Stop reacting in the moment and decide what's the best way, powering up or powering down, to actually influence a situation. Powering down, like I said, can be so effective because you're stopping power struggles. And let me tell you, a lot of men get in this power struggle. I actually used these techniques when I went to the car dealership the other day. You see, I had bought a new car. Actually, it was a couple months ago now. I bought a new car, and they had messed up my license plate. So here I was with my temporary registration about to expire. I had tried to call. I had gotten the runaround. I finally spent 2 days, actually, trying to get a hold of the state of California to find out what happened to my license plate. So if I got pulled over, I didn't get a ticket, right? They had used the wrong address. So the problem was the dealership. They told me the best way was to get the dealership to make a correction. I had tried for 2 weeks. I couldn't get a phone call back from the dealership. I already knew walking in I was going to get a runaround. Anybody ever been in that situation? You know going in you've got a battle to fight. So I walked in. I walked right up to the front counter, and I decided going in, I was only going to use these power techniques. So I went in, and one of them, I don't know if it's up here, was asking questions. So I got the runaround from the front guy. The person that handles that's not here today. I don't know when they'll be back, or they're out to lunch, or I don't even remember what he said. But I said, really, well, how am I supposed to explain this to the police officer if I get stopped on the way home? Very calm, pauses. He'd ask a question, I'd pause. So he finally said, I'm going to go get somebody. Well, he had to walk up the stairs. I quickly looked at where do I want to position myself and how do I want to position myself when whoever he's going to go get walks down those stairs. So there was a little small table, had 3 seats to it. You know, those little tiny tables? Nobody else was sitting there. It was right at the bottom of the steps. So I went over, and I sat down in the middle seat. I took my purse, I set it over here. I took some papers I had, I set them over here, kind of turned sideways in my seat, crossed my legs, and put my arm on the back of this other chair. I had taken up 3/4 of the entire table when this person walked downstairs. What was interesting is I knew what I was doing. I knew I was powering up by taking up more space. When the person walked down the stairs and sat down in the chair, guess what I had to fight doing? I had to fight turning and becoming small again. I actually started to move when I realized what I was doing was not going to work. Now, throughout that conversation, I did turn and become small. I did go back to taking up space. I did raise my voice. I did use eye contact. I did use we and inclusive language, which is part of powering down. There is so many different things I used in that conversation. Guess what? The person wasn't the one that was supposed to take care of this. They went above and beyond, took care of it. And the next day, the manager of the dealership called and said, hey, I understand we had a situation you could have been really upset about yesterday. My team said you were absolutely fabulous. Thank you for being such a great customer. I left there empowered. Now, there would have been a chance that I couldn't have solved that. So many times in our lives, we don't get the outcome that we want. However, if we remain empowered and use the power tools in the right and the proper way, we can walk away feeling better about the interaction. When we're talking about being empowered, it doesn't mean we get everything we want all the time. What it does mean is that we feel built differently about who we are and how we react. So I'm going to tell you, you're going to be able to take the tools. It's on page 198. There's 2 pages, one for powering up, one for powering down, that will tell you how and what tools to use. I encourage people, take a couple of them, practice a couple of them, and then add a couple more. But move into your slow thinking. Because here's what's happening. When we have something, or we go into a charged situation, or like Kelly, right? In that situation, she has a choice to make. And there's some things that we have to overcome. And I'm going to get real with you, ladies, today, and gentlemen. Let's get really real. What do we have to overcome? Because you see, when we're talking about fast thinking, it's how we're perceiving other people and they're perceiving us. What is it that we have to overcome? The first thing, and this happens in all misunderstandings, these 4 things, one of these 4 things will happen. We have to stop jumping to conclusions. When we sit down, our fast-thinking brain wants to jump to conclusions. We have to stop and move into our slow thinking brains, slow ourselves down, and say, I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to be hijacked. I'm going to make this situation different, because that's how change happens. We need to stop making stuff up. I'm guilty of this. How many of you have ever made a mistake? Okay, come on, we all have. But we have a colleague who makes a mistake and they leave you off an email. And we make up a complete story about that. We gotta stop making stuff up. They say that we make stories in our brains. We make things up about people so that they make sense, and we have the choice to make that a positive one or a negative one, and the majority of the time we go to negative. Getting offended. This is what Kelly had to work on. You see, because Kelly, every single time before, would get offended when her boss would say something like that. He meant no ill intent. He was working in his fast-thinking brain. He was old school, okay? He was not trying to put Kelly down. He wasn't thinking, and he said the wrong thing. So we don't hold them. We don't put their heads on the chopping block because of that. We need to remember that other people are working out of their fast-thinking brain, and that she had to stop getting offended. She said she could actually feel her heart start racing, her face turning red, and she actually felt every muscle in her body tense up. We've all been there, right? Oh, she said she had to stop herself and decide how she wanted to respond. And the last thing, we have a failure to believe noble intent of other people. You see, I don't believe that most people want to hurt other people. I think that most people want to be the best versions of themselves, and they want to be kind and courteous towards the people around them. But we fail to remember that the majority of people have noble intent. They're human, and they're functioning in their fast brain, and they're making mistakes too. So when we want to power up, it's about stepping into our power. But if we really want that power to work, we have to think about what power needs to mean to us. It's not coercion. It's not force. It's the ability to influence and direct other people or the course of events. Thank you guys very much for letting me join you today.